Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Tuesday Tips. As always, I'm Michael Barber here on the Grow Schools channel. Welcome to I think this is our 51st episode of Tuesday Tips. We've got an incredible panel we brought in to talk about all things facilities as you're starting the school year, including Maddie Marlton. Maddie's in your right corner. If you can wave for us, Maddie, just to say hello so everyone knows who you are. Maddie heads up our acquisitions team. We've also got Tabitha up in your top right corner. Tabitha heads up our asset management team. And then last but certainly not least, in your left-hand corner, that would be Ryan Eldridge. Ryan is one of the senior leaders on our new business team. I'm going to say a broad welcome to all of you. I hope you're all well. And given you're all pros and returnees on Tuesday Tips, I'll just let everyone know if this is your first time back on our channel. We're here every single week, Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern, having quick conversations on the biggest challenges facing school leaders. And as mentioned, we are kicking off this conversation on all things facilities as you head back to school. I'm going to start the conversation this week with Maddie and talk about really what's happening at a macro level, sort of in the economy. And what should school leaders be thinking about as we see market shift and interest rates potentially coming down over the next few weeks?
Yeah, so it's no secret that the last year has been pretty challenging across the entirety of the real estate industry, and school facilities have been no exception in that. Interest rates have been relatively high compared to the historically low rates that we were seeing in previous years, but right now they seem to be hovering around high sixes, low sevens, and we are expecting a decline slightly towards the end of the year, and that slight reduction might offer some relief. The interest rate environment has made buying a facility expensive and has made it tough for a lot of schools that are in the market to make it pencil because it's directly going to impact affordability. So when interest rates are high and money doesn't go as far, that's impacted schools' budgets, expansion projects, and overall facilities planning. And I'd say a big result of that is that timelines are getting longer. It's hard to make a facilities transaction actually transact. So things are just taking longer than you'd expect to get the deal done across the finish line. So a lot of schools that are up against some sort of timing trigger, like the expiration of a lease or a loan maturity, I'd say are holding out for the market to improve. The challenge is really that we can't predict the future, and it's impossible to know if rates will actually improve and how that will impact the overall market when they do. And I think a lot of folks in the industry are holding their breath to see how the upcoming election will play out, and inevitably that will trigger some shifts in the market.
Yeah, so it's obviously been maybe one adjective to describe it. This market has been tough for school leaders as they consider moving, and whether it be, improvements to their school building or new construction or expanding, et cetera. What sort of strategies or tactics have you seen with the school leaders we're working with as they've navigated the last several years of, high interest markets, challenges related to supply chains? What's working right now that it's going to probably continue to work at least for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think starting broadly, just planning and starting as early as possible. Like I said, deals are taking longer to transact. So the more runway that you have, the likelihood of success is going to play out. So start early and make sure you're evaluating all of your options. There are a lot of groups out there that can help structure creative, flexible solutions. So just make sure that you're looking at all of your resources out in the market and what kind of expertise you can bring internally to make sure that you're setting up the best path forward for your school and for your facilities planning. And then lastly, I'd say just having clear priorities established. Is it timing? Do you really need to get into a new facility by the start of 2026? Or is it budget? Do you have a very strict budget that you need to stay within? And so you can have a little bit of flexibility on the timing component as long as you make the right financial decisions for your school.
I was going to ask you what sort of the best advice as you've been counseling school leaders as it relates to their facilities purchases and thinking about those futures. And it sounds like patience is maybe the biggest piece of advice, but what else there have you been talking to school leaders about as they navigate sort of the challenges of the last few years and they look forward?
Yeah, so I think, again, just making sure you have that right team in place, start planning, the sooner the better. But set yourself up for success by creating a timeline, creating a budget, and a list of needs so that you're prepared to act quickly if the right space or opportunity comes to light. It's going to take time, so make sure you're establishing regular check-ins. Has that budget changed? Has your timing changed? Are you noticing that you're going to need a different type of facility or a different type of space to best suit your operations or the future strategy for your school's operations, curriculum, offerings, all of that? So yes, patience is a huge component, but there are ways to set up for success as you start going down the path.
Yeah, such good advice there. I want to turn to Ryan for a second. And I know, like Tabitha and Maddie, you get the chance to talk with a lot of school leaders every single day. As they're starting the school year, what are you hearing from them about, their facilities or some of the challenges they may be having around those facilities right now?
I'd say right now, start of the school year, they're busy and they're already, concerns over the next school year. Since the school year started, they're kind of committed to where they are. So some are in preparation for the next year from a standpoint of they've experienced growth and they're just needing more classroom space and they're needing more space. So already they're thinking about expansion or development of an existing property to create more space. I do work across the country, so California to New York. And so across the board, you're having schools at different levels of growth. Some are actually at a flat stage of growth. Space necessarily isn't the big concern, but either a flat or even a somewhat a declining enrollment. And some of those schools are actually focusing a little bit more on their marketing efforts to kind of get back to a place of normalcy before COVID and those type of numbers. And then I would say the third group that I'm running into is finding some challenges, even around cash flows, simply because of, the end of the ESSER funds and the one-time federal funds that have gone away. They're more concerned over maybe some positions that they've overhired or implemented during the COVID years, and now are finding struggles to even kind of pay for those and maintain where they are in the cash flow. So there's a lot going on, and it just depends, I think, on the schools you're talking to and what part of the country they're in.
Yeah, the start of the school year, always a challenging moment, I think, for any school leaders as they look at, how many kids are going to return. Is their facility set up for them to be able to handle potentially some growth that they've done over the summer and whatnot? I want to ask Ryan, just as you've heard beyond some of these conversations, you mentioned, across the country, obviously, you've got demographic shifts happening around different areas. When you talk with school leaders, are they more focused on sort of expansion of other facilities or adapting their current spaces? Where are the conversations in terms of like growth versus sort of utilizing the current home that they're in to maybe reimagine a different space when it comes to their facility?
Yeah. And again, I think that depends on the school you're talking to. When they're looking for additional space, it comes down to, the property they're in. Do they own it? Can they expand on it? Do they have the capacity or the land to do that? Or do they need to go search and find a new property, an additional property or another location? And so with that, again, it depends, like if they're growing the enrollment quite a bit, they're certainly looking to expand physical structures. With a kind of flat enrollment, I see a lot more people talking about adjustments to existing space, how they can utilize space a little bit more. Sometimes that is dependent if they are in a lease, for instance, with maybe a not so friendly, charter friendly landlord, or somebody that doesn't necessarily support the charter as much, and they're kind of forced to kind of do with the space that they have. Or maybe they have limitations, like in California, where there's a Prop 39 agreement with district provided space. They're limited on the amount of space they can take on. So it's, again, dependent on the situation. But I feel like right now, more so than ever this year, I've been hearing a lot more about adjustments to existing space and utilizing, maybe it's changing administrative offices or utilizing the space differently for, lunch rooms or, common areas, things of that nature too.
Yeah, such good insights into what the conversations and what you're hearing from different parts of the market there, Ryan. Tabitha, I want to turn to you. Obviously, your team also gets the chance to talk with school leaders every single day with, understanding what's happening related to their schools, enrollment growth, what's happening with their buildings, all of the requirements when it comes to, from a leasing perspective. What are you hearing from them as they start the school year?
Yes, as Brian mentioned, they're very busy, but the good thing that we're hearing some positive news from the schools, which is very good to hear. When they start the year, they're excited for the new school year. As Brian mentioned, they're always looking for the next year too. So mainly the main leaders that we are discussing the ongoing issues on facility maintenance and repairs. So mostly we're done during the summer. So the leaders take this time to approach to check everything that is happening in the facility, especially like fixing leaks or checking the HVAC is appropriate temperature for the students to arrive. And mostly what we are hearing too is the big focus of this year is safety. So new regulations are coming to schools this year, especially Florida and North Carolina. So they need to make some adjustments, implementing new security protocols, systems, access controls, and to ensure there's a safe environment for the students and the staff.
Yeah, I mean, so interesting insights there, specifically around today's conversation, it being Tuesday after a weekend of snow in California, and what is arguably going to be maybe one of the hottest, weeks
Wow.
in the Midwest and the East Coast, right? So HVAC becomes a major concern
Exactly.
as school starts, right? And it hasn't been tested for probably at the level that it needs to for the last few weeks. So certainly something they're concerned about. One of the things that sometimes happens with schools is they, maybe they come in with additional students than they thought they were going to actually end up with. Are you seeing any school leaders use, trying to access additional space in creative or unexpected ways to try and, deal with ensuring they serve different populations of students or deal with growth challenges? What are you hearing out there when it comes to how they're utilizing their facility in creative ways?
Yeah, with students number changing, right? They need to be like a lot of discussion of how they make most of the available space that they have. So some schools are adjusting classroom layout, changing how certain areas are utilized to accommodate their needs. Most of the schools that we are talking, they are also thinking about expand, as Ryan mentioned here. But the thing that I strongly recommend is that they look for the projection for the next 3 and 5 years and start the construction of any expansions, to take at least 1 or 3 years, because that takes time, demand a lot, and they must be financially prepared for that to accommodate that expansion as they grow.
Yeah, such good insights from the three of you about what's happening right now as school leaders kick off the school year. We try and keep these conversations to 10 minutes. We're at the 12-minute mark, so I'm going to say goodbye and thank you to you all. But just wanted to, again, say thanks for all the contributions. It sounds like school leaders need to, one, have some patience as they're, hitting the school year, be flexible across all of the big challenges that they may be facing. But certainly open to conversations with potential partners that may be able to help them deal with some of the challenges that they're facing. And 3 or 4, if you will, make sure that they're starting to plan long term as they think about their space, because certainly timelines and timing for whether it's improving that facility or deciding to move to a new facility are going to take longer than maybe they expected. So we'll utilize those as the themes from the conversation and say thank you again to Tabitha, Maddie, and Ryan. We hope you'll join us next week right here on our Grow Schools channel for Tuesday Tips. We'll have another topic, another challenge that's facing school leaders, and a number of thought leaders and inputs on those challenges. And say thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Take care, y'all.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.